Hello, true duelists. It's YGO Strat's Yu-Gi-Oh! Single card history. We're going to be taking a look at some of the cards that have impacted Yu-Gi-Oh! Throughout the years, and some of the other ones that are absolutely worthless and should not be played or even remembered at all. Today's card, the icing on the cake on the solidest of link boards, IP Masquerena. IP Masquerena was first released in Chaos Impact as an ultra rare in 2019, where it also received a Starlight rare printing as well, just for that extra bit of sparkle. Its first reprint to date was as a prismatic secret rare in the 2020 Megatons, and as of this video, its most recent printing was as a premium gold rare in Maximum Gold Eldorado in 2021, where it also got an alternate art printing that some of you are far too horny for to even consider mentioning in a video that I would like to have monetized. As of this video, it has spent no time on the ban list. A Link 2 Dark Attribute Cybers type monster with 800 attack and arrows pointing bottom left and bottom right. Its materials to summon are any two non-link monsters, and its effect reads: during your opponent's main phase, you can quick effect immediately after this effect resolves, link summon one link monster using materials you control, including this card. You can only use this effect of IP Masquerena once per turn. A link monster that used this card as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Ah yes, IP Masquerena, a modern day staple of the extra deck. Its materials are almost the most generic ones possible in the game. Any two monsters so long as they aren't link monsters, which is good because it means it's very splashable but still somewhat sensible in design. Link spam is the first thing in the game I feel surpassed synchro spam in its ease to be absurd once it gets the ball rolling, and links are so insanely generic that they made tokens viable again after years of irrelevance in the larger metagame. So if you could make IP using any extra link monster you had on board, it would probably make this card even more of a pain in the ass to deal with. That's not always relevant in every format, but it's a silver lining to enjoy every once in a while when you're staring down a board like this. This sucks to look at, but hey, no IP, so it's only how many interruptions? IP's usefulness is twofold: the link summon on the opponent's turn, as well as the protection from the destruction by card effect from the opponent. That's important because it means that if you activate a Torrential Tribute or a Dark Hole, any monster you summoned using IP will die. But if it's the opponent's that's using Torrential Tribute or Dark Hole, you're laughing. Now, in terms of the usefulness of that destruction protection, it can be anywhere from annoying to downright brutal. The most disheartening play I've ever seen when facing down IP was against an ABC deck that made an end board with IP and ABC Buster, and after they tagged out into A, B, and C on my turn, they linked away all three of those and IP into a 4-material Appaloosa that was immune to Regeki. I was playtesting Vendread at the time, and I can tell you that the time I was having was not one I would describe as fun. A strong play from the opponent though, kudos to them. Similarly, another option is to wait for the opponent to make a play to out part of your board, like the tried and true Regeki I mentioned earlier, or even just targeting a monster to pop with, say, a Nightmare Cerberus. You then chain IP, they've wasted a card or effect, and you link into something else for them to have to deal with. Ever dealt with a Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax that's immune to destruction as well? Pretty damn annoying to deal with. Untargetable, indestructible, and it's permanently honest every time it battles? Sir, I'm just trying to have fun. Get that shit off the field. Both of these examples are solid showcases of how using IP as link material can make an already solid link monster into an even better one. And the best part is that the effect to make a link monster unaffected by the opponent's destruction effects is independent from its quick link effect. So even if you just use it as material in a part of a link climbing play on your own turn, you can still make a buffed version of one of your link boss monsters. Boral Sword's already indestructible by battle, which means that it's even more of a pain in the ass when you use IP to summon it. But these aren't really the plays that IP is known for. Matter of fact, nothing I've mentioned is the play. Because you know what the play is. I know what the play is. We all know what the play is, and it is the #1 card that this card sees play for. IP into Nightmare Unicorn. Because plenty of monsters have effects that activate on summon, and those effects activate whether they're summoned on my turn or the opponent's, which includes everyone's favorite yellow horse. This is the easiest and most effective means to disrupt the opponent's turn in the midst of their plays. Nightmare, Cerberus, or Phoenix are also options that can be used to disrupt the opponent's play, but their effects require targeting a special summoned monster in a main monster zone specifically, or spell and trap specifically, whereas Unicorn targets any card on the field and spins what it targets, meaning that the opponent doesn't even have a chance to recover whatever you get rid of from their graveyard, like with the two smaller nightmares. Plus, you need IP and another monster to summon any of them, which means you have access to a Link 3 already, so you may as well. And then you're set up to summon Axe access code. It's just the same play every day. You'll love to see it. IP into Unicorn has been the play of choice since its release in 2019, and even now in 2023 as I make this video, there still hasn't been a target to summon as universally effective off IP as Unicorn is. And it's so damn effective that you can take a look at this chart of tops that IP has seen since its release to get a see of how popular it is. And when you remember that there weren't really any recorded tops during the entire disease that shall not be named for algorithm reasons, or at least I think here, so forgive me for not just saying the word. You know what I'm talking about. Either way, it's pretty clear that this card has been a very popular extra deck tech choice more or less since release. Not every deck has space in the extra deck to make room for both IP and Unicorn, and really IP is only as good as the monster it's used to summon. So a deck with very little wiggle room in the extra deck, like, I don't know, a Shizu Tier Limits, isn't gonna play it. But a deck that has some flex spots, like Adamancipator might, or Dinosaurs, or Orcust, or Altergeist, or Thunder Dragon, or Phantom Knight, or Burning Abyss, or Drytron, or Dragon Link, you name it. And yes, each of the decks I've listed have had tops playing IP at some point in some format. It's also worth mentioning the card has synergy with Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, a Link 5 monster that can use an opponent's monster as one of the materials for its Link summon. And if you're wondering, yeah, of course you can use one of the opponent's monsters as material when summoning this with IP on the opponent's turn. There's typically some amount of debate about this since the wording in IP says you use your own monsters for the summon, but the online ruling database that exists for OCG players says that we can do it. So if you'd like to complain, take it up with the OCG rulings page, I guess, because I just know what the holy book of rulings that exists online says, and with that information, I'm telling you that you can do this. For extreme comedy, however, I recommend you use the opponent's IP for the summon of your own Underworld Goddess, because that's even funnier. You just gotta, get 4 materials on board, not have them use their IP, and then Link summon it. It can happen. There's plenty of bad kids playing this game. Someone's done it at some point, I'm sure. Overall, IP is just about the most generic extra deck staple the game has as I'm making this video, and if it's not the most generic, it's definitely one of them. The generic materials needed to summon, coupled with the simple and effective use of spinning a card with Nightmare Unicorn, is about as timeless as a play can get, being one that will stay solid for some years to come. Because sure, even if you can't target an already summoned Avramax from the opponent, you can still target the materials they're going to try and use to make it before they summon it. And as long as that's the case, IP is gonna be a card that sees play, and one I can recommend you pick up if you're looking at getting your hands on some solid extra deck staples for a bit more variety in your extra deck plays. And so, that'll conclude our look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Single Card History, IP Masquerena. Stay tuned for our next video, and feel free to suggest some cards to review or what type of video you'd like to see. Don't forget to like, and as always, subscribe to YGO Strats to impress your smoking Italian wife, and so you too can become a true duelist.